Hi there. Thanks for joining me today. My name is Peter Chuck, founder of the NP Group. We have a great webinar planned. We're talking about WordPress and security. WordPress is the most popular content management system in the world. We all know it. It's being used in more and more corporate environments. A lot of people, their businesses depend on the platform. But unfortunately, with popularity comes the fact that oftentimes WordPress is the #1 target for hackers and other nefarious bad guys. So today we're going to talk a little bit about the types of attacks and 10 things you can do to mitigate your risk. These are things you can do immediately upon the completion of this webinar. Let's dig in. Okay, so let's get right into it. Today we'll be going over 10 essential tricks for securing WordPress. And let's begin by just doing a summary of what it is we're going to be talking about today, what you're going to learn. First off, we're going to talk about why WordPress sites get attacked in the first place. We're going to talk about the different types of threats that are known to present themselves for WordPress installations. And then we're going to get into the meat of it. We're going to talk about 10 things you can do ASAP, as soon as possible, to further secure your WordPress installation. So let's dig right in. First thing about us and who we are, we're a full-service digital agency. We specialize in custom web development, custom design. We also provide WordPress managed support, wherein we handle all the headaches on a day-to-day basis, a 24/7 basis. And then we'll be talking about that a little bit later as well. First, the threat. What is the threat when you're running WordPress? Well, in general, there's threats across all websites. The average website is attacked 44 times per day. These statistics are provided, by the way, by SiteLock, a company that specializes in internet security. So if you put that out on average, we're talking about 16,000 attacks per year. I mean, that's happening pretty much on an ongoing, regular basis. WordPress is twice as likely to be attacked, and we'll talk about why that is in a little bit, but for the most part, just because of availability, it's a target that's out there. A lot of people use it, so therefore it makes a lot of sense for attackers to just use automated processes to go after it. Right now, there's more than 13,000 known vulnerabilities between the WordPress core, themes, and plugins. There's a great website for that, which I've listed right here on the page, that you can go to, and it'll show you all the known vulnerabilities. And the number is only getting higher and higher. When I first started tracking it, it was in the low thousands. Today it's over 13,000. The security company Securi, they report 83% of their incidents are found on WordPress. And if you look at the chart on the screen, while this is a little bit dated, you could tell that the instances that they deal with, the incidents, are mostly WordPress. 83% is very high. The other platforms, obviously are a lot lower. They're also, a lot less utilized in terms of installs around the globe. So it's very interesting. The threat is real. And sometimes I use a joke, which motorcycle riders may not like, but being a WordPress site operator is kind of like being a motorcycle rider. Those are those that have crashed and those that may. Well, it's the same thing with hacks and WordPress. It's sort of an eventuality that you're going to be dealing with something. I believe that, what was the statistic? Something like a third of businesses last year actually identified and were attacked. So there's a real threat here. So what are the types of things that can happen? Some of these, and there's so many, but I put a couple of key players in the attack space, I guess you could say. DDoS is a distributed denial of service. This is where thousands of computers around the world, or devices, I've even heard of refrigerators being hacked to do this, might attack one destination. So there's two ways that this really comes into play. Number one is you might be the victim of the attack, meaning that you might have thousands of people trying to take you offline, and that's the denial of service aspect. The other aspect is potentially someone's going to take advantage of your server to make it one of the attackers. So there's two things that can happen. SQL injection, I'm trying to figure out how to best explain this. At a technical level, obviously there's a database underneath WordPress that's called MySQL. It's possible, if your site has not been coded well, to inject code that can operate SQL and make it do things, whether it be give permission to another user, access the data that's in there. This is a very popular type of attack. Brute force is where people are just trying over and over and over, trying combinations to access your admin panel. We have a good way to defend against that in a little bit. File inclusion exploits. This is something that digs down to the server level It's kind of complicated to explain, but when you have the core files within WordPress that power the platform, there's a way to inject other files that do things, and they're almost never doing anything good. So that's a very common type of thing, including these files, putting them up and making them execute to perform nefarious tasks. And also cross-site scripting. This is where sometimes like JavaScript might be maliciously installed on your site to perform some sort of task that's then going to go and send data or retrieve data from a third-party source, and that's sort of like the cross-site aspect of this. So there's a lot of different ways that or threats that are out there. These are just a few, but these are the most common ones that we see when it comes to WordPress. So why does it happen? Why does someone go after a small business website that's not offending anybody? Well, there's a variety of reasons. Number one, ransomware. It happens not just with WordPress, but it happens with computers and things like that. So there's a financial type of motivation. You have malware distribution, where people install software onto your server, and what's their goal? It's just to try and get that software propagated to other places. So that would be a worm type of virus. Spamming. There's been a ton of things. They called it, I believe, pharma. There was the pharma infiltration, where people were just taking a bunch of links and putting it up on the bottom of sites. That's kind of also advertising fraud in that play. The spamming also included using your server to send emails over and over and over again. That was a very common one, and we've seen a lot of customers that have had that happen to them. Advertising fraud, again, maybe they'll inject ad code to serve up ads on your domain so they could pocket the money. Crypto generation is an interesting one, which we've seen, which they may not necessarily do this to your WordPress install, but they might use your WordPress install to try to get crypto generating software on your computer. Sometimes people are just mean. Sometimes there's ethical hackers. We had a customer who got hacked, and they left a file in the root and said, hey, this is how we got here. We didn't do anything bad, but we thought you should know. I've literally seen that happen. And then, there's a certain level of fame that might be achieved by defacing a website. That's happened in the past. That happened to Rudy Giuliani. That was a big news story a couple years ago, where he was going to become our cybersecurity czar, and his own site was hacked, and somebody else put their marker up there. So there's a variety of reasons. Which one's gonna get you? Who knows? So let's just get into 10 tricks, 10 easy things that you can do. Easy in that none of these really require you to invent anything, but some of them may require technical assistance. In fact, some of them definitely do. But we're going to go through them, and hopefully, you could take away some of these tricks and install them onto your site. So the trick number one, the easy stuff. Practice safe password management. Force your users to have a certain level of password complexity. Don't let anyone use password as a password. Change the default admin username on WordPress so that nobody can try to log in with that. One of the things about doing brute force attacks is knowing the username, obviously. Get rid of admin, because that's where they're going to start. I read somewhere that, what does it take, less than 10 minutes to break a password that's 6 characters. So if they know the username is admin, and then it's a bad password, you can see how people can get in. A very easy thing you do is just verify that your plugins are reputable. There's some great companies out there, and there's some other ones that are put out by minuscule, tiny little developers that may not even be approved by the community. Verify they're reputable. If you're paying a license fee for a plugin and you're spending $20, $50, $100, typically those are going to be relatively reputable sources. And also check the reviews when you download these plugins. Trick number 2, secure communication and disabling insecure communication. So one thing is disable FTP. This is a server level thing. If you have shared hosting, you may not be able to do it. FTP is inherently insecure, and I've seen all sorts of bugs. I've seen brute force attacks onto FTP. I've seen it where an FTP client got hacked on a developer's machine, took all the credentials, and then went to every single site and installed malware. FTP is insecure. It's sending passwords in relatively plain text. I don't recommend doing it. What I do recommend is SSH or SFTP. This is a secure method for file transfers. This is the only way you should be able to do file transfers on your server. So I would definitely recommend that. On the front end, install SSL. This is pretty much a requirement at this point. Google will tell users when you're not secure anyway, so you should be doing it. And install multiple levels of firewall. If you're running AWS, for example, install the firewall, block all the ports that you don't need to block at the server level, and then we're going to get into another deeper level of software firewalls that you can do. So these are things that you should do immediately that are relatively simple, might take some sysadmin help. Trick number 3, concealing WordPress. Don't let people know that you're using it. Don't make it easy for them to find out. So change your WP admin location. A developer can do this. There are plugins that let you do it. Make sure they're reputable. Hide your WordPress version numbers. That's a key thing. Don't let hackers have an opportunity to find out what version you're on. And by the way, back to the WP admin, I glanced over that. That's a really important thing. Try to conceal it. Don't make it so that anybody can go to /WP admin and use that as a very simple way to diagnose what you're using. Kind of a no-brainer. There are other plugins out there that can hide WordPress relatively decently. I would recommend looking into them. Again, like I say over and over, make sure they're reputable. But try to make it so that automated bots and automated scanners can't necessarily easily figure out what you're running, because if they know that, let's say you're on WordPress 4.8, then they're going to know precisely what tricks they can try to use to attack you. So try to conceal, what it is you're using. I like to harden access to the admin panel. So number 1, add 2-factor authentication. There's some great plugins for that. You're already using this probably with your bank and other places. You should use it for your site admin as well. Consider auto logout plugins. Let's say you have an employee on a notebook computer, they're sitting at Starbucks, someone takes it and you're logged in. Auto logout plugins can help mitigate the risk around something like that. And that is a legitimate threat. Limiting login attempts. This is a great tool to have. It limits those brute force attempts. So I would recommend finding some way to do that. Again, plugins are out there. I would consider putting a server level of HTTP authentication on the admin. A sysadmin can do it for you. I'm not going to lie, it'd be a little bit inconvenient, but it is something that you can do. And also back to firewalls, you could also block out by IP access to that area. That might be something to consider as well. And also, don't make it so that your admin can edit files. Try to turn that capability off, because that's just a very simple step to try to remove some layers of vulnerability from your installation. In strengthening the admin portal, this is trick number 5, and I have it again because this is a very important thing. Remove the file editing capabilities. This is important for a couple of reasons. A, from a global security perspective, but also from the perspective of people that work for you that you may not want them to go in and be able to change those things. And I guess trick number 5 here is a little bit of internal HR paranoia, but limit permissions, on certain administrators. Not everybody needs to be able to do everything. So sometimes you do have security concerns underneath your own roof, and this is, very simple steps you can take. Going deeper into the server, there's some security changes you can do there as well. First thing, as we mentioned, MySQL is a database and WordPress works on top of it. Every table of data is by default named WP underscore whatever. So change the prefix. What this will do is that if something does take advantage of your site and it's looking for WP underscore users, for example, to steal, it'll eliminate the threat. So that's something relatively easy to do. Directory permissions, I'm talking about file directories on your server. Have your sysadmin look at it so that certain folders are not executable, they're not writable. That'll prevent outside scripts that might be trying to write files or do other things, trying to insert files that they might try to execute later. That'll prevent that from being a possibility. Secure the WP config file. Don't make it writable. There's really nothing that should be making any changes to that file, so I would make it so it's not writable and try to secure it. And number 1 thing, server security, keep the software up to date. And the software isn't just your plugins, your themes, it's everything underneath it on the server. If you're using shared hosting, they might be doing that for you. If you're using AWS, Rackspace, virtualized instances, you probably have to do it yourself. So PHP, MySQL, SSL, OpenSSL, everything that's underneath the OS itself, whether it be Linux or Windows or whatever, make sure all those things are up to date. And there's so many more libraries too that I'm missing. But make sure that you are keeping them up to date, and that's typically the job of a sysadmin. Number 7, DNS protection. These providers are spectacular. They're great for DDoS protection, which means, if you get those 5,000 servers that are attacking, trying to take you offline, these guys will actually prevent that from being a catastrophic issue. So some of the players I like are Cloudflare, Security. Cloudflare manages your DNS, all of your DNS, so you can carry it across other parts of your company. Security actually does it only based on, I believe, just the website. But there are so many players in this field. Find a reputable one. And also they help from a scaling perspective because they also have some CDN capabilities, which is content delivery, and other things like that, caching. So they kind of speed up delivery. Highly recommend it. Everybody should be using it, and the price point is very low. I think like $20 a month, and there's even a free level on some of them. Trick number 8, stay up to date. This means everything about WordPress. So the core, the plugins, the themes. Make sure that they're up to date. I mention here again, because it's so important, backend server software. That needs to be up to date too. Keeping up to date is the only way to really mitigate risk of security threats that keep presenting themselves. You need to do this on a regular basis. Plugins are the most susceptible to intrusion. I think it's 52% of hacks are starting at the plugin level, so keep them up to date. There is a catch-22 to be aware of, and this is where management of this yourself is a little bit complex. When you update a plugin, you might need to update a bunch of plugins that work with it, which is what I would call a dependency issue. That's something that you're going to have to research. Updates are a slippery slope. There are ways to do automatic updates. WordPress allows it. Sometimes auto updates might break stuff. I'm not going to lie, it's helpful to have professional guidance and help. It's helpful to follow procedures. It's great to have a development environment where you can test these updates before you go to production. There are a right way and there are a wrong way to do these things. If you're technically capable, go ahead, hit that update button. Try to do it on dev first. If not, I would seek some help and try to have an arrangement with someone to help you. Trick number 9, security scanning. Very important also. There's a lot of companies out there now that provide this, reasonable price points. WordFence is one of my favorites. You install the plugin, it scans your files, and it's looking for any sort of intrusions or files that don't belong there. Security, WordFence does it from your local install. Security is a great product. It actually does it from outside. It can log into your server remotely. And then there's other players, SiteLock, iThemes, SecurePress. One thing to note, a lot of these offer cleanup services. Your mileage might vary. They're not going to know your software. They're not going to know your company, what you're trying to achieve. This isn't like an ongoing relationship. This is just a one-time cleaning. So, when you see a cleaning that's $100, you're going to get what you pay for. There's a high level of recurrence. Their model is not providing permanent solutions. It's just providing that fast cleanup. So something to keep in mind, but I do love the way they scan and notify. And there's a huge value to those services. And trick number 10, have someone that can help you. I think a lot of people are under the impression that WordPress is free, so I don't have to pay anything to run it. And that's really not true. While it is free, you do need help. You do need support. You need someone that you can call. You need an escalation plan. So you need to know if someone's watching you 24/7, 365. Almost sounds like a stalker, but I mean someone's watching your website. So you need to know that monitoring is in place. You need to know that somebody is going to respond at 3 in the morning when it goes down, that person knows how to escalate, that they've been empowered to do certain things to bring the site back. This is something that you need. This is an insurance policy. You put insurance on physical buildings. You put insurance on your life, your health. Everything that we have is insured. Yet we have companies running the websites that power their business. And there's a massive downside to having vulnerabilities taken advantage of. Again, this isn't fear mongering. This is just the way it is. There's a cost of inaction. Just this week, we had a customer that without monitoring, they had some downtime and they lost business out of it, and in the thousands of dollars because they didn't want to pay a monitoring fee with response. that's up to them to make that calculation if it's worth it. But some of the things that can end up costing you, site restoration. So if you're not monitoring and responding quickly, you're going to pay to restore it. You have the lost opportunity cost, lost business, potential ransom fees, which sounds crazy, but is true. You have a reputation hit. If your competitors find out that your site was hacked and they have photographic proof of it, I don't think that's going to go over very well. Depends on your business, obviously. The data and assets. So many WordPress users do commerce, lead generation. All this data is stored in there, and yet they have no plan for monitoring, for security. That is just unbelievable. It's putting you at a massive risk and a massive liability for lawsuits or anything. It's just unbelievable. There's a risk of being blacklisted. I've seen Google results and SEO, SEO results, search engine, traffic results just drop drastically because Google has blacklisted sites that they know are vulnerable or have been hacked. So you really don't want that to happen to you. And much along the line with reputation, but just from a PR perspective, it just makes you look dumb depending upon your business. Like I said, the Giuliani example, it was like giulianisecurity.com, and the site was hacked for a while. This was not something that was hidden. So it could be a PR nightmare. That story was all over the place. It does matter to maintain a secure environment, and it does cost you when things go awry. Really quick, what are your options for ongoing support and help? Well, first off, you could do it yourself. Set up simple monitoring. Site goes down, it texts you, but be ready to respond. And one thing I could tell you is get ready to Murphy's Law. It's always going to be at the worst possible moment that something's going to happen. Number two, if you're working with an agency and an agency built your website, they could handle it. In my experience, not all agencies want to do it. Typically, they want to go from big job to big job. They don't really want to deal with just ongoing, maintenance and support. Or work with a managed support company, somebody that's actually set up to handle this type of ongoing assistance and support. So with that, of course, I'm going to mention what it is we do. We offer managed WordPress support. It starts at about $295 per month. What we do is 24/7, 365 monitoring. So basically, if the site goes down 3 in the morning, we're going to respond. We do security monitoring and screening up to every hour. So every hour, we're going to scan files, look for anything that might have happened from a malicious perspective, respond, and clean. We have agency services on demand. So it's kind of like having an agency of record. You can call us for updates, upgrades, new feature requests, design, development, anything that you might need. You're going to have access to us. So it's kind of membership in an agency where you're going to have someone that can help you. All of our account management is United States based. You're always going to talk to somebody that's going to be here, speak your language, understand your concerns. And we've been in business since 2001, so everyone's an experienced digital marketer, designer, developer, project manager, account manager. We've been at this for quite some time. In fact, all new customers talk to me first. So again, our plan started at about $295 per month, and you can find out about this at wordpress.npgroup.net. And also, you can find us here. There's our physical location, located in northern New Jersey, right outside of New York City. There's our phone number. Give me a call. And again, here is our web address, npgroup.net. Thanks for joining me for today's webinar. I hope you found it insightful. Again, WordPress is a great platform, but it does require ongoing support. It requires security screening and hardening, and it requires the ability to respond to any issues that might arise. If you have any questions, feel free to reach out to me directly. My email is right here. And we have other webinars, we have other content, we have a ton of blog posts, ebooks, all at npgroup.net. So have a look and have a good day. Take care.